speaking about right now, so I'm probably cutting into his time. So I don't expect to be beating the president. So a little cup of coffee. Oh, we're over 2,000. Okay. So I won't make this a long one today, but I will make it a good one. As I just said to you, President Trump took off from Melbourne, Florida today. He's probably speaking right now. And he is making a very, very smart move, as far as I'm concerned, doing that. There is no question, although he started out on fire right out of the gate with a bunch of different executive orders, and the narrative was, this guy's doing more than anybody's been doing in any presidency that I remember. That was the narrative you heard from a lot of people who are familiar with the D.C. Dance, if you will. They are familiar with what takes place in a presidency. They have been around covering administrations. They said, this guy is doing more. Wow. This is good. Wow. And then we sort of hit a bump. We hit a bump with the temporary ban. Didn't come off and go off as expected. All right. Learning curve. Trying to get things done. He's aggressive. He's excited. Trying to hold to his promises. Can't hold him guilty for that. But wasn't expecting some of the things that came out. Understandably so. Doesn't mean that we can't go back to the drawing board, and he is going to go back to the drawing board. I'm hoping that DHS and immigration officials are still working busy behind the scenes, figuring out how it is that we can have better vetting. And as I've said to you, it feels like now 4 million times in the last few weeks, that they have to come back to the president and say, we need lower numbers. That's the first way of vetting people better. Less numbers coming into the country, thumbs up. Okay. Then we sort of hit some other bumps. We hit the bumps of a press corps that just wants to do whatever they possibly can to derail the Trump presidency. They just want to make it so miserable. They want this to be the quickest and most hideous 4 years that any president has ever served. They are going to do everything in their power to do so. What you have seen so far is a prelude for the next 4 years. Guaranteed. It's not going to get any better. They're not going to get any friendlier. It's just going to get worse. Okay. Then we hit the Russia bump. And I've told you that the Russia bump is going to be forever with us for 4 years. I've told you. I told you after the election that they would use Russia as the tool, as the topic, as the whatever you want to call it, to try to bring down the president. They have attacked Kellyanne Conway. They have attacked Sean Spicer. They have beaten the hell out of Mr. Flynn. They have pretty much written a mountain of poor articles, bad articles, hit pieces on every single one of Trump's cabinet picks. The Democrats have slowed everything possibly down for President Trump. He has an ocean against him. He is completely swimming against the tide in a pool, in an ocean of sharks. It's the best way of saying it. The only thing he has behind him is you. Is you. And so guys like myself who sit here and don't kiss buttocks to the president, but support him 100% every day, have been saying you need to change the narrative. You gotta get into a different rhythm. Throw these guys off their game. Do what you do best. I like to think that he's heard these messages. And he sat back and said, hey, I'm Donald J. Trump. I'm the president. What can I do differently? What can I do to throw these guys off the game? Because in addition to all the things I just told you about that have been happening, we've had all these marches, protests, if you will, taking place all over the country, and in many cases, all over the world. anti-Trump, anti-Trump, coming up with things to be anti about that he hasn't even done, that he hasn't even said. I just rewatched this morning, and I sent it off to somebody over at the White House. Excuse me, that. A video that I recorded months ago prior to the election during an anti-Trump rally in which I had asked a black man who was wearing a sign around his neck, both sides of a sign, like the kind of thing you would see somebody wear outside a store in a promotion. It said, Donald Trump is a racist. And I went up to the man and I asked him, well, can you tell me what Donald Trump said that was racist? And he couldn't. And is there anything that he said? Anything? Okay, name me one thing. Couldn't do it. I said, well, then maybe he's not a racist. And he said, no, I'm sure he'll say something eventually. This is the kind of mindset. So you got people marching in the streets saying that Trump is anti-gay, that he's anti-black, that he's anti-immigrant. Meanwhile, he's married to a woman who, speaks, as far as I'm concerned, semi-broken English. She's an immigrant. Ivanka's mother, big-time immigrant. Everything they toss out is pretty much false. Pretty much false. They have just bought into this narrative that Donald Trump is an evil man, that he is the worst thing since Hitler, and they're going to do whatever they can to derail this man. So he's sitting back and looking at all this and says, let's have a rally. That is the brilliance in what he does. Now, he is not the first president to go on the road after taking the presidency. Might be the first president to go on the road in less than 30 days after he took the presidency. But he is the first guy to go on the road who doesn't have a specific agenda that he's trying to sell. He doesn't have this one bill that he's trying to sell. That's what the presidents usually do. They go on these tours to try to push a healthcare thing or whatever. And they try to pick up press, and the press will follow them. He's not. He's just going out and rallying the troops. And in some cases, he's going out to rally himself. And that's the key. Because although he is a very strong, confident human being, each of us can only take so much beating. We can only take so much beating down. And I know a lot of you didn't agree with me, including Rush Limbaugh, who thought that press conference that he held the other day was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't. I think the fact that the president has to stand up there and feel as if he needs to hold that sort of press conference is a shame in itself. And although he is a smooth operator, there are certain optics that were in that press conference that, because you know I'm a futures guy, I look ahead and I say, that might come back to bite us. But Trump sits back and he says, you know what? Let me do what I do great. Let me get people excited. Let me go out to an arena and get that chant of USA, USA, USA. That's what he's doing. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It will change the narrative. They'll try to, the media, overlook today. But how do you overlook 30,000 people screaming for you? How do you ignore 30,000 people screaming, USA, USA? You can't. What he did today is spectacular. And it's good for him. Because as I was saying, no matter how strong you are inside, there's only a certain amount that you can take until you just sort of want to put your head down a little. And I'm sure there have been a lot of nights when the Twitter is off and the TVs go dark, Melania's not around and nobody's asking him for a statement and there's no executive order to sign. And he's just sitting there and he's thinking about how many people are saying evil things about him when he hasn't done the things that they say he's done. He thinks about the fact that his daughter, who has worked so hard day in and day out to build a brand, to build clothing lines and shoe lines and all the other different stuff. I don't know. I don't buy her stuff. I'm not a woman. To think that his daughter now has to suffer through that sort of thing. I mean, when he adds all this up, he's a human being. And so he wants to feel good again. He wants to feel positive. He wants to get that extra charge. And instead of allowing time to just keep on passing, he says, hey, let's go on the road and hold a rally. This is why I voted for this man. This sort of thinking is why I voted for Donald J. Trump. Because that sort of thinking is a problem solver. He doesn't let the problems get too far ahead of him. He sits back and says, hey man, I got the first 100 days and my first 30 are down. I got to make the next 60, 70 the best I possibly can. I need momentum. And right now, I don't have the momentum. Right now, I've got a pissing match with the press. Right now, I've got liberals who are calling for my impeachment already. Right now, I've got everybody trying to attack all the people I've tried to surround myself with, and I just had the resignation of one of my top guys. I need to change the narrative. And there you go. Now, Mr. President, if you can push forward some really good tax reform, if you could start talking about how it is that you're going to put money back into all the American people's pockets, not just conservatives, but also Democrats, all of us, I'm telling you, people will start listening. Unfortunately, money talks and BS walks. So just give the money. You do that, and the rest of this stuff is going to seem like it was just a bad dream. Yeah. Start making the Sunday shows talk about tax reform. Start talking about how it is that the middle class people are getting kicked in the shins day in and day out, that they're going to work, they're looking at their check, and they're just not seeing how it is that they're going to live the American dream. Ignore the press. Ignore them, man. You're there today. You didn't need the press to put you in front of these people in Melbourne. You didn't need the press to hear USA, USA, go Donald, you're our guy, go Mr. President Trump. You didn't need the press. You don't need them tomorrow. You don't need them Tuesday. They need you. They need you to sell headlines. We need you to lead the country in the direction that will make it great again. Now, that said, I shift gears a little bit here. I wrote a piece this morning. Wrote a couple pieces this morning, to be honest. I was in writer's mode. I wrote a piece this morning because you know how much I like to predict the future and come back and say, I told you. I wrote a piece this morning about something you could bank on, especially if the president does not take action soon. And I know he has a lot on his plate, and I know a lot of times when I talk about this, I sound as if I'm in attack mode. Don't mistake passion and urgency for attack. It's not an attack. I understand you can't build Rome in a day, but you can send the illegals home in a day. And here's how it starts. We have to cut off the money and cut off the incentive for people to stay here and to come here illegally. Now, I have connections down at the Border Patrol. I reached out to a couple of these guys this week. And I asked one in particular who has never steered me wrong. All the information he has given me has always been spot on. I said, what's the story down there, man? Are we seeing less crossings? He says, look, it's still busy down here. He says, we're definitely apprehending less amount of people. He says, but the activity that we're hearing is still the same. I said, what do you mean by that? He says, the flow is still coming. We're hearing that the flow is still coming. And we're afraid that it's going back to the pre-Obama way. What does that mean? Pre-Obama, the finish line to America was being able to run past and get through the Border Patrol. If you eluded the Border Patrol and you got through, hello, America. Now, to do that, what happens is that the illegal aliens pay a pretty high dollar amount, a fee, a smuggling fee, to the drug cartels. They have to. They really have no other choice. If you don't want to get beat, if you don't want to get raped, if you don't want to get killed, you give the drug cartels a smuggler's fee. $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for most of the Central Americans, Mexicans, or whatever that are coming through. When it was pre-Obama, what would happen is they would take them across the border. They'd get them through the Rio. They would get them through Arizona, wherever it was, whatever. We'll just stick with Texas for right now. They get them through the Rio. And then after they get them through the Rio, they get them past the Border Patrol. They smuggle them past the Border Patrol. It's that second year. First it's to get over, and then it's to get through. When they got through, and let's say, for instance, they get to a place like Houston, they then surprise the illegal alien by holding him in a stash house. Now, if it's a girl that they've got, they call back to daddy, let's say, for instance, in Guatemala, and say, hey, we've got Lucy here, and you can hear Lucy, and if you don't send us another $5,000, we're going to continue to rape Lucy every single day that she's here. Whew. Okay, so now Lucy's dad back in Guatemala does everything he possibly can to get $5,000 and send it to the drug cartel, and then Lucy is released and let go on her way. That is the smuggling process, the ransom process that was done day in and day out. In fact, when I did They Come to America 1, I was still telling that story. President Barack Hussein Obama said he was going to fundamentally transform America in many different ways, and I always knew he was going to do immigration to do it because it's a lot easier to repeal Obamacare than it is to repeal people. And so what he did was he started to do this catch and release. Now, everybody thinks that he did the catch and release solely so this way he could get new voters into the country. He also did catch and release because in his heart, he didn't like the story of these illegal aliens being treated this way. He didn't like the illegal aliens having to dish out, in some cases, $20,000, $25,000. So what he did was he tried to eliminate, cut out the cartel, cut out the expense. And so this way, he made it so this way, the illegal aliens didn't have to outrun the Border Patrol. All they had to do was just give themselves over to the Border Patrol. And by giving themselves over to the Border Patrol and checking in and say, hey, I'm here, and they knew that they would be caught and released into the general public, the cartels were now cut out of it. The cartels were cut out of things that happened after the Rio Grande. And that's where the dangerous stuff happened. That's where people were dying in the deserts. That's where the girls and the guys were being held in the stash houses. So in Obama's mind, he cut that out. And to his credit, I can't believe I'm saying that, to his credit, he did. He did. That definitely slowed down entirely. Now, smuggling didn't completely slow down because there are multiple reports, and I've reported on them many times, that people who are coming in from nations that we deem a national threat, China, Pakistan, I don't know if Pakistan's on that list, Iran, Iraq, they're coming in and they're paying the cartels $50,000 a head for safe passage to get through the Rio or to get through the Arizona border and then into America, wherever it is that they want to be in that given city. So when Obama cut out the catch and release, he made it so this way the cartels with these people, like I said, stopped at the Rio. Border Patrol took them, put them on a bus, you paid for the bus ticket, and they went somewhere USA without having to worry about any additional danger or any additional monies having to be held for ransom. Okay. Well, the president has stopped the catch and release program. That's the good news. The bad news is that there has been no executive actions taken so far, with the exception of trying to crack down on the sanctuary cities. There has been no executive action so far to take out the incentive to come here for a job or to come here and collect welfare of some kind of another. There has been no stoppage in trying to have them come here and get their free schooling and their free health care and all the other free this and free that. There has been no crackdown on that. That's why I think it's almost on a daily basis at this point. I talk to you about having mandatory e-verify, about having mandatory sanctions and fines on employers, about everything we can possibly do to crack down on the ability that you cannot get a job and live in America if you're here illegally. Now, when we do that, I'm so confident, I'm betting it all, taking all the chips and putting it on, that a lot of these people will go home. Not only will they go home, self-deport, remember that word by Romney? Not only will they go home, but they'll stop coming because there's no incentive to come. And so I go back to the Border Patrol guy who said to me, we're fearing that things are going back to the old way, we're apprehending less people at the border because they're not turning themselves over anymore. Instead, they're paying the money to the cartel guys who are going back to the old smuggling process because there's no more catch and release. That is dangerous. That is dangerous on many levels. And as much as I don't want any illegal aliens in my country, I don't like to think of a poor woman or a poor man getting beaten or raped and held inside a stash house for another $5,000 so they can come here maybe and get a job cutting somebody's lawn. Okay? So now it becomes more than just protecting American jobs and protecting American lives. It comes down to just protecting lives. All right? We've got to take actions to stop people from coming here illegally. All right. Next topic, DML. As I sip my coffee. This morning, checked out a couple things, and I almost spilled my morning coffee on me as I saw that historians were given a survey by C-SPAN, and the survey asked where it was that Obama fit within all the presidents. And they have ranked this man number 12. 12. Not 12 from the bottom. 12. As in Abraham Lincoln 1, George Washington 2, Obama 12. 12? 12? I can only tell you this. I have been alive since 1969. I can't remember anything about Gerald Ford. I can only tell you that I start to remember things like when Jimmy Carter was around. I remember the gas lines. I remember the hostages in Iran. So if I go just purely on my own experience, because as I said in my piece this morning, I'm a terrible student. In fact, I graduated towards the bottom of my class in high school. I barely graduated. Why? Because I was too busy hanging out with my buddies, playing sports, and trying to romance Mary. I just wasn't in school. I'm not a book learner. I'm a hands-on learner. I'm an experienced learner. If I sit in front of you and I watch you tie a knot, I'm going to know how to tie that knot, probably better than you by the end. In fact, I love this little story, a little side note. I started off in the computer business working for a guy. I think he was paying me at the time $7 or $8 an hour. He had started a computer business. 2 years later, I was one of his number one vendors. Okay? So I learned, all right? I started my own business, and he started buying from me versus me working for him. That's the kind of learning I do. So if you want to ask me who was a better president, JFK or FDR, I'm not going to be able to tell you. I mean, I might just give you the answer I've heard on television 50 times. Hey, Ryan, can you do me a favor and let the dog in? A little distraction there, sorry. But I'm not going to be able to give you an intelligent answer. I can only answer you from the people that I have seen firsthand, because that's the way I've done my learning. So you want to ask me who was better, Bush Sr. or Bush Jr.? I'll give you my experience. If you want me to tell you who's better, Trump or Reagan, I say give me 4 years. You want me to tell you who's better, Obama or Carter? I mean, obviously, I learned more from Obama than I did when I was a 10-year-old boy at Carter, but I remember sitting in my dad's back seat at the gas lines. Oh, man. I remember hearing my parents complaining about not being able to pay this and not being able to pay that. I just remember it. I remember being in school and when President Reagan took over, what it was like. I remember these things. I can tell you without any doubt whatsoever that of the presidents in my lifetime, President Barack Hussein Obama is so much worse than any of the older guys there. There's nobody even close to being as bad as he was. He makes Jimmy Carter look like the Michael Jordan of presidents, man. He does. He does. He makes Jimmy Carter look like he's just awesome. And yet the historians are putting this clown number 12. Now, I got Obama, Clinton, Bush, Reagan, and Carter. 6 guys, 6 presidents I know. If he's number 12, those other presidents had to suck. I mean, they had to suck. So I know a lot of you are older than me. Did they suck that bad? Was Nixon and Johnson and JFK, were all these guys that bad? Obama's number 12? Now here's where the real impact of this happens. I don't know how many years you got left on the calendar. What do you got? 10, 20, 30, 40 if you're lucky? I don't know. I'm going to be 50, in a couple of years. If I got 40 years, I'm surprised. 40 years from now, when you and I are up in heaven playing bingo together, hanging out with President Trump, they're going to be teaching our kids, these historians, are going to be writing all the social studies books. These kids are going to be reading that President Barack Hussein Obama was 12. You and I are going to be able to say anything. We're going to be dead. Dead. What are we going to do? Yeah. He's good as a 12. What did he do to put him at 12? That's the key. What did he do that the other guys didn't do? I do know this. When you look at all the other guys and you add them all together, from taking Bush Jr. all the way back to the other George, known as Washington, and you add up all the debt that they accumulated together, collectively, President Barack Hussein Obama, he collected more as just one guy. How that puts him as number 12 is beyond me. But then again, I'm not a historian. I did not do well in college. I did not graduate valedictorian. I do not have any college degree or a PhD. And I barely know how to make a good cup of coffee. But I do know that President Barack Hussein Obama should not be 12. No. That said, I end with a very sad story. Not a funny one. You may have seen, I don't know, we haven't covered it on DennisMichaelLynch.com, but it has gone national. There's a story here from my own hometown, or I should say close to where I am. It's of a young man. He's 1 year out of high school. He was an athlete, fantastic athlete. In fact, he played for a football team a couple of towns over. And not that it matters. His father's black, mother's white. He started, I guess, getting involved in drugs. All right? And it's unfortunate because this kid is a star athlete, star football player. And he started getting involved in drugs. So he goes to this party, this local party, where this young lady is known to charge $10 per head to come into the party. You either got to bring drugs, or you got to bring alcohol, or you got to pay $10. If you don't pay the $10, you don't have any of the other two things, you're not getting in. When you do pay the $10, if you want to get the drugs, ready for this? Allegedly, according to these news reports, the drugs are supplied by the father, by the daughter's father. Now, there have been multiple complaints about this house, that the parties are excessive, that the noise is out of control, that there's drugs and drinking going on, what have you. But unfortunately, the cops and the town have done nothing. Why this is, I can't understand. So anyway, this young man goes to the party, and he thinks that he's doing cocaine. And it wound up being that it wasn't cocaine. What the hell was it that they put in for him? Oh, it was like a morphine. And so he winds up blasting the morphine up his nose and starts getting violently sick, just throwing up, passing out, not even moving. And these other kids are at this party are sitting there and trying to wake him up. They're literally taking a bullhorn, and you could also make the sound on the bullhorn, and they're putting it right up to his ear. I mean, you can see there's a Snapchat video of it, and we'll post it to our site later on if you want to check back. They're putting it up to his ear, and the Snapchat video is showing that they're blowing it in his ear. And one of the people on the Snapchat is looking, and they say, "Why is he still not getting up?" The boy laid passed out for 16 hours. 16 hours. Nobody called an ambulance. Nobody called the police. Nothing. Finally, they put out a missing on this kid, and they track him back, and they get him. They take him to the hospital, and the kid's in a coma. Luckily, the kid is out of the coma. And now the star athlete, you see it in the video, is now learning how to walk again. This just all took place. And he's lost his hearing, from what I understand, in the one ear. Can you believe what I'm about to tell you? There have been no arrests made at all. And to add poison into the wound, the girl put out just days later, after this has all been taking place, another invite to a drug party at her house on her Instagram page, blatantly saying, $10 at the door, if you don't bring drugs or you don't bring alcohol, you ain't getting in. And there are no arrests made. You explain to me how that is. When you see me get so upset about things, and I get passionate, and I get worked up, I'm trying not to do that today. I'm trying to take a Saturday here and tone it down a little bit, because I've been really working long hours, hard hours, 7 days a week, 18-hour days. I want to rip something apart because I don't understand how it is that our country has gotten to this place. How has our society gotten to this place? Our kids are poisoning themselves. They're using drugs in a way that is simply insane. For the second time in 1 week, we have posted now another report that confirms that babies in this country are being born addicted to drugs at alarming rates. What has to happen? I mean, what has to happen for people to wake up? What? I don't get it. You know, my kids say I'm strict. And my kids' friends, from what I'm told, are intimidated by me because they say I'm strict. Yeah. You want to know why? Because my kid ain't going to be the one snorting morphine off a table. My kid ain't going to be the one sitting on the news saying he was a star athlete. Why and how has this happened? Bothers me to no end. And I will say this. This is to a certain degree, a lack of leadership on every level. Leadership in the home, leadership in the town, leadership in the schools, leadership in the classrooms, leadership at the governor's level, leadership at the presidential level. Yeah, do I mean Trump? Obviously, this is not Trump's issue. The guy just got in. But I'll tell you what, if he doesn't do anything about it, I'll be riding him like white on rice. But this is a lack of leadership. We don't pump out leaders anymore. We pump out pansies. We pump out politically correct, articulate kids who know that it's fashionable to protest against anything, something quick. We don't pump out leaders anymore. No, we don't. All right. For those of you who are going to stick around, I want to rattle something out to you for 5 minutes, and then I'm hanging up. Right after I'm done with you, I'm going to make a post on DennisMichaelLynch.com. I'm halfway through it. I started doing it. I wanted to get ready before this, but I just didn't type fast enough. I'm putting together an entire post. It is, 4:30 my time, 4:40 my time? I'm saying by 5:30 my time, I'll have it ready. I am putting together a post of things for you to see. All the things that we have been buying for the new place, for the new studio, for the new media platform. Because today's the 18th, actually marks 3 months where we started taking donations. And I told you that I needed 3 months, then 6 months, and 1 year. And so because I'm a man of my word, and I like to believe I have integrity, and because that's who I am going to show you, because I can't show you a finished product yet, but I'm going to show you what it is that we have been doing. And it is simply fantastic. If you look over the 3 months of what we've accomplished, I think we had four or maybe 5 writers for DennisMichaelLynch.com prior to raising the money, me being one of them. We now, I think, are at 13. Yeah, in 3 months. That doesn't include Harlan and Scarlett, who I've also added on to the team. I told you we'd create an app. We have an app. I told you we'd get a place. We got a place. And I told you that we would have a new website, an additional website, or at least the starting thereof. And that thing's going to be ready in about 2 weeks. In addition to all of that, I'm going to show you what it is that we've been buying. You're going to see, I was explaining to a guy yesterday who's trying to come up with a new logo. I explained to him, listen, I'm trying to accomplish 3 things, and it's very important you listen to this, so this way you can understand what my logo needs to look like. All right. I said, I believe that the way that news and information and entertainment, to a certain degree, when it's news related, like a documentary, is going to be delivered differently than it is today. Today, people don't watch Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7 anymore, ABC, CBS, ABC. They don't watch the shows like Miami Vice and CSI Miami and all the other stuff like they used to. Now, people go and watch Netflix, or they watch Amazon Prime. They're watching things off an app. I said, but news hasn't gotten there yet. They're still in the old world of, Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 25, I said, that's going away. I want to be one of the first people to be in the app business for TV news. So this way, by the time everybody figures it out and they're in the app business, my app is already there, and I'll be on equal plane with CNN and ABC and Fox. I don't have to go get cable distribution, big cable distribution. I'm on the smart televisions. The guy's like, "Ooh, smart DML. Yeah, thank you." So I said to him, so that's new. That's new. I said, but everything else about what I'm doing is old. Meaning that journalists and TV news and documentary filmmakers, with the exception of Dinesh D'Souza, they all have lost their way. In the old days, if I were to tell you I was a newsman, Walter Cronkite, David Brinkley, you'd be like, wow, that's an upstanding guy. I want to meet him. Now, you say that you're a newscaster. You're as despicable as somebody in Congress. I said, so I want to bring the old world of news, the credible, I'm sitting down and listening to somebody and know what I can believe it. I want to be the authority. I want to be giving, when I put the DML stamp on it, that means it's like the good housekeeping, a seal of approval. No questions asked on the other side. So I want to take that old way that it used to come through the radio and the TV, that solid state, and bring it into this new delivery. I said, and then there's one more thing. I said, I've thought about it, and I've always questioned why the walk-in talks have been so much more popular for me than my television show or my appearances on Fox, because it doesn't make any sense. See? I'm like, why? Why is that? I said, and people answer me by and large because they say it's real. I said, okay, not that the other stuff wasn't real, but this is really more real. I said, I think it is because I bring them into my home, I bring them into my life, and they feel like they know me. And because they feel like they know me, they feel like they can trust me. I said, so that's why I've wanted to do this new approach of forget about the plasticky desk and the neon lights and the fancy lights underneath the desk and the fancy $1 million logo underneath the desk and all the other different stuff and all the, the Megyn Kelly glitz and the, and all the different stuff they've got. I said, I want to bring these people into a living room. Let them come into a living room. We'll bring in, as Harlan likes to say, we'll sprinkle in TV, but for the most part, they're coming into a living room. A nice, comfortable, boy, I'd like to sit in that living room. Because really what happens, if you think about how people go back and forth with each other, when was the last time you ever had a conversation about kids on drugs or illegals coming through the border or what you think of your president? When did you ever sit at somebody's plastic neon desk and have that conversation? You didn't. You sat on a sofa across from the person you were talking to. You sat at the kitchen table and you slurped on some coffee. Or you sat on your stairs and you sat on the stairs and you talked across to somebody who was on the recliner. I said, I want them to feel like I'm sitting in their living room or vice versa, that they're sitting in mine. So I need all of that incorporated. And I told him, I'm a hard guy to work for because if the logo isn't perfect, I'm going to keep telling you no. So you got to either get it right the first time or you probably won't make yourself any money because the amount of hours you're going to put in to make sure that I get the logo I like. So you want to make sure you understand that before you come in, because I'm not just going to settle for anything. And he said, I like you. And I said, I like you too, especially if you give me a good logo. So anyway, I will post that up. And I always tell Harlan, I tell Scarlett to say thank you to you guys. 3 months ago, we started the donation thing, and you've been donating again. I appreciate that. People have been doing that at DennisMichaelLynch.com/donate. We get them now every single day again. Every single day we get it. I keep buying stuff, and you're about to see it. I'm going to start posting. You're going to see my new desk. You're going to see our sofas. You're going to see the monitor wall. You're going to see all the equipment, the Apple equipment we bought, the Sony mixer we bought, the lights we bought. I'm just lining it all up. So this way you go check it out. It's pretty cool. We just bought some new wall pictures. I bought a thing of, I don't know, they put all these plastic things up at these other news stations. I said, no, you know what I want? I want the Statue of Liberty, an American flag, and I want some soldiers, some Marines. I said, give that to me out there. We just bought the most classiest, beautiful stuff that you're going to see all over the walls. It's just so special. So anyway, thank you very much. That's DennisMichaelLynch.com. Donate. You guys have been doing fantastic. And of course, as always, you got to download the app. If you don't download the app, you're insulting me. So that is iOS store or the Google Play Store, Dennis Michael Lynch. Download. All right, it's free. That's all. All right. Well, this wasn't actually a walk and talk. It was a sit and talk. But the last time I did a walk and talk and actually walked outside, I got sick. I'm not doing that again. So anyway, I'll try to come back tomorrow if I can. If I can't, then I'm just going to maybe take the day off and I'll see you on Monday. So if you get a text alert, great. If you don't, so be it. All right? And that's it. I hope you and your family have the most wonderful of weekends. And until either tomorrow or Monday, whichever comes first for me. Not sure what that means. God bless you. God bless our troops. God bless the United States of America. And God bless every single child who doesn't have somebody at home who's helping them get through this very difficult time in America. Let's kill these drugs before they kill our kids. See you later.